Live from New York, this is the Harvey Hour. My name is Stephen Harvey. It's great to have you in on a Friday. As always, I'm joined alongside my dad, Stephen Harvey. How you doing today on this Friday?
Happy Friday. It's hot outside.
It's blazing out. Felt like 98 here in New York.
You were out playing basketball today, man.
I played basketball for a couple hours, getting my shots in. Need a lot of work on my shot.
There weren't anybody out there playing besides you, right?
Absolutely not. Everybody was going to the pool. No one wanted to shoot hoops around me. We got a couple of nice topics here to talk about, but let's begin immediately with the breaking news that I think everybody was expecting, and that is JJ Redick was hired to be the next head coach of the Los Angeles Lakers, and as Shams Charania said recently, he was always the number one choice to be picked. I think everybody realized that Dan Hurley was a nice little tease, but it turns out not enough money, not enough to lure him away from UConn and try to three-peat for the NCAA championship this upcoming season. Instead, they went with their number one choice, which was indeed JJ Redick, on a 4-year deal worth approximately $32 million. I want to know, because we talked about this earlier when the rumors were out that JJ Redick was the favorite. I want to know, do you think that, or first of all, do you dislike or like this decision by the Lakers, and what do you think the result will be this upcoming season during Redick's first year as the coach?
This one is a little bit hard for me to understand. I think that Hurley was their first choice, far and away. And he turned them down. They had been talking to Redick, and now he was basically what they were left with. I feel like he is like the only one left, and they were kind of forced to pick him. I mean, he gets $38 million less than they were going to offer Hurley. How many years did he get? 4 years.
4 years.
4 years. So 2 years less than Hurley, who was going to get $70 million. That's a $38 million savings, I guess, for the Lakers, although there's 2 other years there. So I don't know what the salaries might be for those 2 years. I mean, Redick played for 15 years in the NBA. They say he has the ability to connect with the players, and there's a high basketball IQ. They like that. They're going to surround him with an elite coaching staff to shorten his learning curve, because this is his first job as a head coach. The Lakers want a teaching coach and a staff who will prioritize development of young players like Christy Reeves and Hachimura. They need a creative approach to featuring Anthony Davis at both ends of the floor. That's something that they've lacked, and whether Redick can deliver that or not, I'm not sure. He has a strong relationship with LeBron James, who he co-hosts a basketball podcast with. So those are his qualifications. I think they'll want to have some good basketball minds supporting him, as they said. And I don't know, is he any better than Darvin Ham was? That remains to be seen. And Darvin Ham got fired after 2 years when he had a 4-year contract. So we'll see how long J. Redick starts. He comes in as knowing that he was the second fiddle to Dan Hurley, who they tried hard to get and couldn't do, and he's the second fiddle. So we'll see.
I've talked about this before on the show, and we discussed this about JJ Redick reportedly being the runaway favorite, especially after Hurley turned them down on that 6-year, $70 million contract. This is gonna be, I'm not gonna call it a tire fire, but this won't work. I don't think JJ Redick will be there for the entire tenure of his 4-year deal. It just doesn't make any sense. I think it is good that they're hiring a coach that at least knows the players around. He was in the league 5 years ago? So it's not that he's completely removed from this version of basketball, but the fact that he has zero coaching experience, he really has done no coaching at any real level. He's not coached anybody. Look at Steve Nash and that situation with some high-profile players very early on. I believe he was the first coach in Brooklyn with the Kyrie, Kevin Durant, and eventually James Harden type of team. Look at Derek Fisher with the New York Knicks. Hell, look at Isaiah Thomas when he took over for Larry Bird with the Pacers. He was about a little bit over a 500 coach, and then he went over to the Knicks and was a complete tire fire. He was below 500 wins. He was minus 26. So sometimes players don't turn out to be good head coaches. However, there have been some success stories like Larry Bird with the Pacers, where it was only a three-year coaching stint, and for some reason, Larry Bird had a tremendous coaching record, but at the end of his 3-year contract, he said he's not fit enough to coach, which I found pretty interesting. And then there's also Steve Kerr, which we all know how he's doing with the Warriors, mostly a success, won 4 championships. That ain't that bad. However, both of them had years of experience working in the NBA front office before they took to the coaching role. Not only that, Steve Nash, Derek Fisher, were they top-tier players when they played? Not really. Steve Kerr hit a beautiful shot, game-winning shot. It's pretty nice. He's also been around. He won 5 championships as a player. He knows how to win. Larry Bird saved the NBA when he first started playing along with Magic Johnson. So the fact that Redick has no coaching experience, that's a major detriment, especially in the city of Los Angeles, which I'm going to talk about, in a couple of minutes. But number 2 reason why that he won't succeed is that the Lakers aren't a very good team. They're not built really for Redick's style of offense. Redick talks on his podcast, Mind the Game with LeBron James. He talks about how he likes the Celtics style of basketball, ball movement, threes. The Lakers are not built for that whatsoever. Just this past season, let's break into how the roster is built. Last season, offensive rebound-wise, not good, dead last in the league. 3-point attempts, third to last in the league. Even 2-point attempts, they were 22nd in the league. They're good on the drawing fouls and shooting free throws. That's how the Lakers play. They're a defensive team, and even that, they weren't that great defensively. They were 16th in the league, so below average, and offensively, they were 15th, so actually dead on average. So then he's not getting a KD or a Kyrie Irving or anything like that. No, he's getting a very old LeBron James who could still put up good numbers in the regular season, but when he's relied upon during the playoffs, when he needs to actually play very well, and Anthony Davis, who this is the first time he's been healthy, credit to him, when they need to come up, hell, they won 1 playoff game. That's not a great roster. D'Angelo Russell sometimes disappears. Austin Reeves is an okay piece, but not all that great. This team isn't built to win anytime soon. Taurean Prince, Rui Hachimura, they got Spencer Dinwiddie midway through the year. They're not a great team whatsoever, even if they go get Bronny James, which most likely won't happen in my estimation. So if JJ Redick wants to coach a 3-and-D team, well, they're going to need to get some 3-point shooters. They don't really have any. If he wants, more ball movement like the Celtics do and 3-point shooting, this team is built for it. It's the Darvin Ham built team. So he's not acquiring a god-tier roster. He's not even acquiring a good roster. He's acquiring an average to below average roster. And finally, I think this is the obvious one. It's kind of the one thing that I mentioned talking about Dan Hurley. It's the Los Angeles Lakers, and they have LeBron James. So the expectations are already through the roof. So LeBron James has been on the Lakers for 6 seasons. Redick will be LeBron James' 4th head coach on the Lakers. That's not that great. That's a 66% coaching change, which is pretty crazy. Only Mike Brown and Eric Spoelstra lasted more than 3 seasons as LeBron James, coaching LeBron James. And what's funny is that LeBron actually tried to get Eric Spoelstra fired 17 games into the first season in Miami. So he didn't even like Eric Spoelstra until they started winning. So, yes, LeBron James is still an ultimate player even at 40 years old. Yes, Anthony Davis just had his healthiest season of his entire career. However, Frank Vogel won a title. That gave him a 2-year gap, and that was a bubble year. He needed special circumstances. That team needed special circumstances, unknown circumstances, for them to win a title. It wasn't going through an 82-game, in the trenches, fighting every game, and then going to the playoffs. No, it was a COVID year. No fans in the stands, no nothing. So even then, even winning a title gave Frank Vogel 2 more years. And so it's the Los Angeles Lakers. It's the same thing as the Dallas Cowboys. It's the same thing as any top team in any of the major sports. If you're one of the biggest markets in sports, you're expected to win. Doesn't matter who your coach is. Doesn't matter what your roster is. If you have long lengths of success, and the Lakers, they were tied for number 1 in total NBA championships. Now the Celtics passed them recently. Because of their historic history, well, you're expected to win, especially if you have LeBron James. Because LeBron James, he's won 4 titles. It's not bad. Not bad at all. He's considered the greatest NBA player in history. So this team has kind of been in title or bust mode for probably about 4 years now. So if JJ Redick, let's just say they miss the playoffs, will the Lakers mafia, I'll call them, will they let JJ Redick slide? Will they let this one season slide? I'm not sure they will. What's funny is that I think the day of, Monty Williams got fired after only one singular season as the head coach of the Detroit Pistons. I would have at least inquired about him. I wouldn't have immediately signed JJ Redick. I understand he wants to be a head coach, but that's interesting why you absolutely would not even decide. You know what? Let me hold off for a second. Let me think about Monty Williams, who had to deal with a bunch of personalities, had to deal with young and old combining with Devin Booker, with Chris Paul, with DeAndre Ayton. Why not deal with that? Why not even inquire about Monty Williams? Why instead go with a first-time head coach, first-time coach, period?
Did anyone else have any interest in JJ Redick? I don't think so.
No.
It's like he came out of nowhere. I have two additional comments. I think you made some very good points there. I see JJ Redick's job very challenging. As you said, LeBron James, he's one of the best players who ever, if not the best player who ever played the game of basketball in the NBA, and he's somebody that I don't know if you can coach at this point in his career. He's a legend. He kind of makes his own choices about what he wants to do. I'm sure he say, well, I'm ready to go back in, put me back in, or I want to take the last shot here, give it to me. There have been instances of that in his playing career where he's demanded those kinds of things. So I think he could be challenging to coach, even though they're best friends on a podcast. I don't think that's going to be very different out on the court. I think the Lakers' thought in hiring JJ Redick is not just his coaching ability. Maybe I think that he connects well with the players. That's important. That was something the Yankees looked for with Aaron Boone. And more importantly than that, and also tied to Aaron Boone, is somebody who has a media presence, right? Aaron Boone was somebody who was on the not podcast, but on an analyst on many of the stations, and he spent a couple of years, doing that, and he did quite well with it. I think he was liked by the fans, and he had a good rep for that. So I think that played into him being hired. That could be something that the Lakers are thinking about too, somebody who's really good with the media, because I think it's going to be important, because the second factor that I have is Bronny James. I predict the Lakers will draft him, and he'll be on their team, and I think that's going to be a free-for-all, because Bronny James, who knows how he's going to play. I doubt he's going to be great at the beginning, but they're going to want to have him in the game with LeBron. LeBron wants to play with his son. I mean, that could be chaotic, and that could create all kinds of problems in the locker room. I don't get it. I think that it's going to be very challenging for Redick. Although he's going to get paid $8 million a year to deal with it. He may only last 2 years, and then he'll get paid out his contract, and you know what? He'll be really rich, and he will put up with a bunch of craziness and be well paid for it. So I don't feel sorry for him.
Well, Rich Paul, Clutch Sports, said that LeBron ain't that he doesn't have that mentality anymore. He doesn't feel the need to play with his son anymore, which is, I don't know if I fully believe that.
His son said that about him. He said it wasn't important for him to play with his father.
And apparently Rich Paul now is saying, you know what, LeBron...
Well, maybe LeBron thought, well, my son doesn't want to play with me. I don't want to play with him.
I doubt that.
I don't know.
Also, yeah, I get it. Redick's a player coach. I understand that. He's only a few years removed from the league. So he understands what the league has turned into. He was just a lead analyst for ESPN. So it's not that he's completely removed from the game entirely. However, there's two big aspects of this. The first thing is Redick can't make LeBron any younger. And the second thing is LeBron can't make AD any healthier. This was the first time in a long time AD played this number of games. I think it might be the healthiest season AD has ever had. He played 76 games this year, which, looking at it, is the healthiest season of Anthony Davis's career. And this is at, age 30, he finally decided, or I guess the circumstances were he did not have a major injury, missing large amounts of time. LeBron even played 71 games this season. So the perimeter defenders can't get any, like, he can't make them more athletic. He can't make LeBron James any younger, and he can't make Anthony Davis any healthier. Now, he could build his staff so it's more, I guess, stacked than other supporting coaching rosters. However, I saw somewhere about Rajon Rondo joining the staff, and maybe Jared Dudley, although the Mavericks probably won't let him go. Last time I checked, this wasn't an old-time NBA reunion. I thought you want, like, for instance, Sam Cassell for the Celtics. He was supposedly a candidate for the Lakers job. Well, he's on a winning team.
Yeah.
You bring in a guy, JJ Redick, who hasn't even coached in any really major aspect at all.
Any at all. He's never been a coach.
And you expect him to what? Go
to
500?
Win. To win. No, they expect him to go deep in the playoffs. They fired Darvin Ham.
Right.
Because he got bounced after the opening series. He took him to the conference finals the year before.
Yeah.
And they bounced him. He made the playoffs both years. He made the conference finals once. He got beat in the first round this year.
Yeah.
But, he did get him to the playoffs, and they fired him. He had 2 years left to go on his contract.
So would it be outrageous to say it's still title or bust no matter what, just because it's LA?
Sure. It's LeBron James, Anthony Davis. Those are two really big names.
I agree with you.
They think that they get somebody that can make the younger players play better. Maybe the supporting cast can help lift these two becoming ancient warriors up so that they can compete for a title. I don't believe it. Look at the competition now in the West. You have the Timberwolves, who surprised everybody this year. I mean, they didn't play that well against Dallas, but they really outperformed against Denver, who I saw as the best team. Yeah. And I think that the Celtics owe the Timberwolves a thank you for knocking the Nuggets out, because I think it would have been a very different series, Celtics against the Nuggets.
Yeah.
Because the Celtics didn't beat the Nuggets in the regular season.
Not only that, OKC got stronger. They traded away Josh Giddey for Alex Caruso, who I believe was part of the all-defensive team this year as well. So they're getting stronger defensively. Minnesota, like you said, number one defensive team in the regular season. Denver still has Jokic and Jamal Murray, which I think if you lost Bruce Brown, I think that could have hurt you a little bit. The Clippers, you got to deal with the Paul George situation and even a Kawhi situation, who Kawhi's health is a massive factor there. Joseph James Harden. Dallas just made it to the NBA Finals. Phoenix is always a disappointment, but in the regular season, they'll still be somewhat feisty, I think.
Well, they might be good. Who knows? They got a new coach.
The Pelicans. Can Zion stay healthy? Can Brandon Ingram stay healthy? Can CJ McCollum perform well? The West is a massive, it's basically like a battle. Each and every team is I mean, look at it. The number one seed was tied technically. OKC and Denver had the same record. Then Minnesota was 1 win away from both those teams. And then it was a 5-win gap to the Clippers. Then it was 1 win up until the 8th seed, which is what the Lakers were last year. So Phoenix Pelicans had the same record. Dallas was 1 win above them. I mean, this was a very tight race up until seed 12, where there's a 10-win gap. So the West, every single team, it's like you beat them, you're moving up in the standings most likely. You start going on a bit of a losing streak, you're falling deeper. It's not like you have a 5-game lead on any team in your conference, because the competition is so stiff, it's so demanding that if you go on a losing streak, which I think I would say coaching definitely has a decent impact in basketball. I think it's also what's the level of talent you have to begin with. I think really great coaching can make average players great. Look at Eric Spoelstra and the undrafted rookies and the undrafted free agents, not this season, but the season before. They went to the NBA Finals. Now they got, I think, gentlemen swept by the Denver Nuggets, who were just clearly a better team. But bad coaching can make good teams terrible. No. But, however, I think really great teams, coaching does not affect them as much. I think average coaching cannot make or break a season, because you have good enough players that can perform at a pretty decent level. For instance, Joe Mazzulla's first season as a young head coach, it was decently good. They made it to the Eastern Conference Finals. But you saw just how maybe a team who has better coaching can outplay you. Go down 0-3 against the Miami Heat in the Eastern Conference Finals. The Hawks series. The Celtics should have dominated the Hawks against the Sixers. The Celtics should have dominated the Sixers. That series went to 7. So, okay coaching, I think in the grand scheme of things can't kill your season. But I think really bad coaching, if you just screw your players up, I mean, Darvin Ham last year, Austin Reeves had an interesting quote, bashing Darvin Ham and his not, going hard at the championship mentality. I'm sure that affects something. Anthony Davis even took a shot at Darvin Ham. Darvin Ham took a shot at his players.
We'll see if JJ Redick has any kind of the success that Darvin Ham had. I doubt it. Darvin Ham got him to the conference finals. He got him to the playoffs this year. So we'll see if JJ Redick. I'm predicting JJ Redick won't have the same kind of success in the first 2 years that Darvin Ham had.
I would 100% agree with that.
Yeah.
100%.
And they fired Darvin Ham. So
yeah, after 2
JJ
years.
Redick will be, I'd say, on a short leash. And given, as you said, the coaches that go through L.A., on a pretty rapid basis with LeBron making the calls about who stays and who goes, could be a short stint for JJ Redick.
I would agree with that. Let's get into our next topic here. So NFL Network analyst Daniel Jeremiah on his podcast, Move the Sticks, he ranked every quarterback in each division, and he put Caleb Williams as the worst quarterback in the NFC North. We have the audio here, so please take a listen.
Jared Goff is 1 for me. I have Jordan Love 2. I have Sam Darnold 3, Caleb Williams 4. And that's just, that's just because I think it's going to be a little bit of an adjustment period with Caleb. And then I think that, he's got a chance. Sky's the limit. And I'm bullish on Sam Darnold with Kevin O'Connell and all the pieces that they have there in Minnesota.
So he ranks him as dead last in the NFC North. Sam Darnold, he puts ahead of Caleb Williams. I want to know, do you agree or disagree with Jeremiah's take? And then how would you rank the NFC North quarterbacks?
Yeah. I didn't really understand his analysis. He said there's going to be a little bit of an adjustment period for Caleb Williams. Well, how long? He said maybe a half a year. Well, then by over the whole year, maybe he plays a lot better than Sam Darnold, which I think is probably possible. I mean, I've been pretty hard on the Bears, and people have given me a pretty hard time about it, right? And maybe some of it rightly so, but I'm not that tough on as tough as Jeremiah is on Caleb Williams. I do think that he will outshine Sam Darnold by the end of over the course of a whole season, which is how you should evaluate a quarterback, not just how he plays in the first 4 or 5 games and then how he plays the rest of the season. It's for the whole season, and I think that Williams has a lot of he has a lot of talent. Jeremiah, in fact, ranked him number 1 in the draft. He said, although he has average height, he's thick and muscular build. He's a natural thrower, delivers the ball with accuracy, velocity from a variety of platforms and arm angles. He powers the ball in a tight window and can also finesse the ball when needed. He's a dynamic runner who makes the defenders look silly in space. I mean, he couldn't have enough good things to say about him, and now he ranks him behind Sam Darnold? Come on. That's just a media hype thing, I think. He's looking to get his name out there and people talking about it like us here. So I don't think he's going to be the best in the NFC North. I think Goff and Love are definitely going to be better than him. He's only a rookie, so it's going to take him a while to improve. But Sam Darnold, his best year, 61.9% completion percentage, 3,024 yards, 232 yards per game. He had 19 touchdowns, 13 interceptions, an 84.3 quarterback rating, a great record of 7-6. Huh? So I think Williams will outshine Darnold.
So you're saying, would you agree though that it's Goff, Love, and then you would say Williams, Darnold?
That would be my analysis. Although I will say Jared Goff, when he's under pressure, is terrible.
That's true.
Okay, so his offensive line is going to have to play well. If they do, he'll be the best quarterback in the NFC North, I think. Jordan Love, he didn't have a very good first half. I think it was mostly because the receivers were so young and it took him a while to gel. But he had an excellent second half. But it's a small sample size. I mean, it's really 1 year, so you'll have to wait and see. He's also very poor under pressure. So most quarterbacks are, though. So, we'll see how the rest of the teams play. It is a team sport. And Williams has quite a bit of talent around him on the offense. I don't pick him to win that many games, but I do think he'll have some good moments at quarterback, and I do think he'll overall for the year be a better quarterback than Sam Darnold.
Well, I 1,000% agree with you, and I don't think Sam Darnold should be ranked over Caleb Williams because from the get-go, I guarantee you could timestamp this, favorite this, save it for later, whatever you want to do with it. From the get-go, Caleb Williams will automatically be a better quarterback than Sam Darnold has ever been in his entire career. Would you believe that Sam Darnold's best season, like you said, not even 62% completion percentage, 3,000 yards, 19 touchdowns, 13 picks, a passer rating of 84. That was Sam Darnold's best season of his entire career, which was his second to last year with the New York Jets. He wasn't that great in Carolina. He wasn't that great. He played a singular game, which I think was the last game, and he lost. He lost his last game when he was with San Francisco. Now, where I do think that Sam Darnold can have his moments is if he just is the game manager and plays even okay at that. Because the Vikings roster is good enough for, hell, if Daniel Jones was on the Vikings, I think Daniel Jones would look pretty good. Because that's kind of what he needs. He needs pieces around him so he can just dink and dunk. Brock Purdy also. I'm sure we'll talk about him at some point. There's something, PFF came out with something interesting about how he was the most helped quarterback this year, which is what my campaign was for his MVP or lack thereof. So I think Brock Purdy could do very well in the Vikings. I thought JJ McCarthy, if he was just okay, if he was decent and could at least fit into the system good enough where he's on time, gets the throws to his playmakers, and let his playmakers make the plays, he'd be okay. He's struggling a little bit right now. By the time training camp comes around and by the time preseason comes around, will that change and he jumps Sam Darnold? Maybe. But the fact that you have Aaron Jones, Justin Jefferson, Jordan Addison, Brandon Powell's not too bad, TJ Hawkinson, and then Christian Darrisaw as your left tackle, that's pretty good. That's a pretty good start to the offense. However, PFF came out with its wide receiver core and overall its entire offense. Wide receiver core, which I'm going to bring up, it's ranked fourth in the NFL, which I can completely understand. Caleb Williams at quarterback should be a perfectly fine rookie. He was the first overall pick in the draft. DeAndre Swift, running back, he really shined with the Eagles when he had a pretty good offensive line. Keenan Allen, wide receiver 1, he is old, gets banged up occasionally. However, can he still get you 120 catches? I think he can if he has the production, which I don't think, just because of the amount of talent he'll need to do. And then you also have DJ Moore. I think he got 1,300 yards, if I'm not mistaken, this past season with Justin Fields as his quarterback. And we have talked about Justin Fields at lengths about how he wasn't that good of a quarterback. And then Rome Odunze, very, very promising rookie. I like him a lot. And then obviously Cole Kmet at over 700 yards. I think he's an underrated tight end. Very underrated. I thought the Patriots should have drafted him in the first round of that particular, I think it was the 2020 or 2021 draft class. I thought the Patriots should have drafted him in the first round. So the Bears' offense is pretty good. In totality, would it be top 10? The offense, if we're talking about including offensive line, the offensive line I think brings it down a little bit. Right guard, not great, who I believe, the right guard of I think it's Nick Gates if I'm not mistaken. I'll bring it up right now just to clarify myself. Nate Davis. Nate Davis. PFF rated him very, very low. The entire offensive line wasn't that great. However, Jenkins, can he stay healthy? If he can, he's a pretty good left guard. Darnell Wright and also Braxton Jones, 2 very, very young tackles. If they could make a massive jump like Andrew Thomas did for the Giants, I think the Bears' offensive line structurally would be pretty good. DeAndre Swift bouncing to the outside, I think you could definitely use him in that regard. You don't need them run him up through the trenches because the interior of the offensive line for the Bears isn't great. Last season it wasn't that great. However, another year into the system. My only concern, and we heard about this recently, how is the offensive scheme going to be? Because Caleb Williams at USC, was very sporadic. He was trying to make the hero ball play. He was always trying to make the flashy play, stay in the pocket way too long. Instead of taking the easy route, he would stand in there and make the flashy play, the highlight play. Can his game be more refined if need be? He's getting compared to Mahomes already, which, if you're trying to live up to that, it's a very, very difficult thing to do, especially historically with the Bears, what they've done to quarterbacks. People say it's the place where quarterbacks go to die. I think it could also, the Jets could also fit underneath that category as well. However, clear shot at the Jets. But they've never had a 4,000-yard passer and never had a quarterback throw for 30 more touchdowns. Can Caleb Williams do one of those things this season? I'll bring it up again. With this offensive talent, I think he has a pretty good shot at doing it.
Maybe. I think he will do it, but maybe not in his rookie season. I think can you bring those players back up there? I think they do have a lot of talent. I think that Odunze could be, another JJ Jefferson maybe, or some of the other CD Lamb or somebody that plays in that kind of category. But he's only a rookie, and so is Caleb Williams. So it's going to take him a little while to gel, I think. And I agree with that. Jeremiah, I agree with that point. It's going to take him a while to adjust. I think they have a chance to be great. But I don't think it's going to be next year. But even with the poor record that I predict for the Bears, I do think Caleb Williams will be better than Sam Darnold.
I agree with that. And I agree with the rest of the ranking, too. We have the exact same ranking. I put Goff above Love, and I put Love above Caleb Williams. And even if JJ McCarthy's out there, I'd still put him above JJ McCarthy. Because the Vikings quarterback situation currently is not that great. If Sam Darnold, it's Sam Darnold.
I think that the J.J. McCarthy will wind up in there before the end of the season.
Oh, absolutely.
Based on the way Darnold has played over his career.
You have to. He was the 9th or 10th pick in the draft.
His physical talents are pretty good, but the mental part of his game has always been suspect.
I agree with that. It's unfair to call him the worst NFC North quarterback when, he hasn't, and I understand. Pre-rankings, trying to get it out there first. I completely understand. We've done it a number of times. But
plus, Jeremiah's his analysis doesn't make sense. He said there's going to be an adjustment period for Williams, maybe half a season. Well, rank him over the whole season and compare him to Donald then. He could be great in the second half. That's what he predict. Let's compare him to C.J. Stroud. Does Williams have as good or better talent on the Bears as C.J. Stroud had in his rookie season? I would say maybe a little better. The rest of the talent around him is maybe a little better. Maybe not the offensive line.
But
the skill players, I think that they're every bit as good on the Bears as the Texans had. Now, will Williams be as good as C.J. Stroud? I doubt it. I think that performance for a rookie last year was quite amazing. And he took him to the playoffs and won a playoff game. The guy is a special player. So, but in terms of talent around him, I would say that Williams has just as good a talent around him in his rookie season as Stroud had. Will he play as well? I'd be surprised, but it'll be fun to watch.
I think the massive thing that the Bears are going to need to do is, how are you going to deal with run blocking? You're the 23rd best ranked run blocking team. Will DeAndre Swift be effective? Because already last year, and I think this is in large part due to the fact that you had Justin Fields as your quarterback, and I think athletic-wise, Caleb Williams does have a decent amount of athleticism, but if you're comparing him to Justin Fields, I think Justin Fields has the edge. The Bears last year were the second best rush team in the NFL, even behind the 23rd best run blocking team, and I think, like I said, that's in large part due to Justin Fields' mobility. Will that regress? Will your offensive line be able to step up to the task this year and say, you know what, we're going to get better run blocking wise? Because I don't think DeAndre Swift will have a massive impact, which he did with the Eagles for a large part of that season, if you don't have a good run blocking offensive line. If the offensive line falls through, Caleb Williams, we've already seen, USC did not have the best offensive line, and for sure they didn't have a great defense. Now, the defense for the Bears back half of the season, everybody knows that they were ranked number 1 for, I think, week 12, I want to say, on, or it may have been even longer than that. It might have been after the trade deadline, where they were number 1 in the league. Okay, but in the entire season, though, that's what I'm looking at, the entire season. This year, will that continue? Will that continue? That's, we're going to have to leave it up to that, but I think good defense, which Caleb Williams did not have his last year at USC. Okay to good offensive line, depending on what happens. I think the tackle situation is something that that honestly might make or break Caleb Williams' pocket presence, especially at a young age. You want to have good pocket presence. Ask Sam Howell how he did with that very poor offensive line in Washington. But I think overall, Caleb Williams, by the end of the season, I don't think he'll be able to surpass Love or Goff as number 2 or number 1 best in the NFC North, but I think he'll solidify his place as at least over whoever is the quarterback in the Minnesota Vikings.
Yeah. Well, what do you think about his performance as a rookie and potential performance compared to Stroud?
I think what Stroud did will be and is more impressive than what Caleb Williams could do, because he took a 3-13-1 team and won 10 games and won a playoff game.
Yeah.
I think, by the way, the Bears went 7-10 last year. So are you saying they're now going to go 14-3, win a playoff game if we're doing the same level there, win 7 games more?
I said
I don't think
Caleb
Caleb
the
Williams
opposite.
Yeah, I don't think Caleb Williams is a +7 in the win category. Do I think that he can go 9-8, 8-9? I think that is a very good season.
Mm-hmm. Well, let's not forget that the Texans also drafted Will Anderson.
Defensively,
and
correct.
Traded up to get him, and that made their defense a lot better, too. The Bears' defense, we'll see. They did strengthen it. They got the sweat from the Commanders.
That was the massive piece that made them so good.
He played well for them. He played well for them, too, once he came over. So, and they picked up some more pieces in the draft, too, for their defense, too. So, we'll see. It's going to be great. I can't wait for the season to start.
Hey, NFL is
we got a long way to go, too.
I think it's under 100 days. I think we got 80 or so days, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
So I'm excited for the season to ramp up. I got to do my quarterback rankings soon enough, which I'll do at some point. But we're going to take a quick break. But coming up, the Celtics are favored to repeat as champions. How confident are we that they actually will? As well as, could we potentially see a hard salary cap against quarterbacks in the upcoming years? We'll talk about that right after the break.
Whether you're just discovering your voice or taking your show to the next level, you know what the world needs to hear. All you have to do is say it. With Spotify, set up your podcast. Your food podcast. Your mindfulness podcast. Your never thought you'd get this far podcast. And watch those sparks fly.
I put a picture of the comment.
Drop the episode anywhere people listen. And find out who they're cooking with. Where they're finding inner balance. And why they love your show. You're already a creator. Now you can create, connect, and get paid for your passion with one single free tool. Spotify for podcasters. Talk where the world listens.
Using Wi-Fi without NordVPN could mean sharing your private stuff with more people than you think. Stay safe on public Wi-Fi. Get NordVPN's special offer and encrypt your internet connection. NordVPN. Online security starts with a click.
Welcome back to the Harvey Hour. My name is Nathan Harvey. It is great to have all of you here on a Friday. As always, I'm joined alongside my dad, Stephen Harvey. Let's get into our next topic of today's show. So after the Celtics won their 18th championship, which is an NBA record, won over the Los Angeles Lakers, who they were tied with since the Lakers won that bubble championship back in, I believe, 2020, Joe Mazzulla is very excited to repeat, and the odds makers, rightfully so, have the Celtics as the favorites to win the 2024-2025 NBA Finals. Mazzulla, actually, interesting enough, he's been, quote, all he's thinking about is repeating as title winners, and also Mazzulla said he wants to emulate the success of teams in other sports with track records of winning multiple championships as inspiration, explicitly citing Manchester City's 4 straight Premier League titles. So he's even going cross sports now. He wants to maintain that level of success, which the Celtics have not had championship-wise in several decades.
Yeah.
So I want to know, how confident are you that the Celtics could be the first repeat champion since the 2017-2018 Golden State Warriors?
I'm reasonably confident. I think the burden is off Tatum and Brown now that they've got their first championship. Look what the Bulls did after they finally won their first one. It took Michael Jordan quite a few years to get it, and he teamed up with Scottie Pippen, and they managed to get it done. Now you still have Tatum and Brown. They have all 8 players who had at least 1,000 minutes will be back. They're only losing Cornette maybe and with the Tillman there, the two backup centers. They can fill that slot somehow, I'm pretty sure. So I think that happiness is the moment before you need more happiness, and they were happy to win it all, and now they're thinking, hey, let's repeat. And I think they have a very good chance to do it. I think that the main team that would be in their way would be Denver. I see them getting out of the East. I mean, you look at the year that they had. They had they were the 26th team to win 64 games. No team has ever had more 50, 30, and 25-point wins in a season. They had some 50-point wins in the season. Right? They're 16-3 in the playoffs. It's the second highest winning percentage since they went to the 7-game format for the whole playoff series. They were behind only the 2016-17 Warriors, who had Kevin Durant and Steph Curry. The 14th to top 80 combined wins. They outscored opponents by 11.34 points per game. They're the most efficient offense in NBA history, 4th best efficiency of any postseason team to win the title. They have all 8 players who had at least 1,000 minutes will be back, and Jason Tatum's going to get the Supermax contract. And those players, Porzingis will be back. Derek White, Drew Holiday has a 4-year extension, and even Al Horford is going to be back, and he still looks pretty good to me for a guy who's considered to be old. So I like their chances. I think Denver will be the main impediment to them. I think they'll get out of the East reasonably easy, although they had a little easier time this year with players being hurt along the way. It made it a little easier. I mean, but they only lost 3 games out of the 19 that they played to win the championship. So they're a dominant team. They got a great core there. They seem to all get along very well. Joe Mazzulla learned a lot in his second year. They have a great bench coaching staff, although some of those guys will probably get plucked away. We'll see. It looks bright for them, and I'm all for it.
Well, here's the big thing, right? This year, I think everybody could agree was championship or bust, because you got Porzingis, you got Drew Holiday, you got rid of some of the fan favorites of Marcus Smart and tremendous defender Robert Williams, who couldn't stay healthy. And, Kristaps Porzingis did his thing. Drew Holiday made some very, very clutch defensive plays. And I think this year it's the same thing, because this year you have a couple players, mainly Derek White, who might be gone by the end of next year. Derek White's going to probably get a decent amount of money that he wants. He's probably looking at maybe a $25 to $30 million a year contract, because that's just how good he is. That's how big of an impact he's had during his time with the Boston Celtics. But for this upcoming season, Jason Tatum's back, Jaylen Brown's back, Porzingis is back, Drew Holiday, Derek White, Al Horford, Peyton Pritchard, and my guess, just because it's a $2.1 million option, Sam Hauser will be back. So they have a bunch of their really, really good pieces back. And I think what we've seen is, how does your bench do? Because what we saw, at least in the past 2 NBA Final victories, the deeper team won. Miami did not have a very good, consistent, deep team compared to the Denver Nuggets, who I think had a very underrated bench. The Celtics were the deepest team in the NBA this year. The deepest team. Sam Hauser could hit threes. Peyton Pritchard, ball handling, defense, knocking down threes, was pretty good. Luke Cornette, good on the boards. And then you also have your top guys, Tatum, Brown, Porzingis, Drew Holiday, Derek White. Al Horford even came off the bench. He was a starter for a long time. Rob Williams and him would start a few games here and there. So at least one more year. Their window is open one more year. So if I'm doing it on a scale of 0 to 10 in confidence level, I'm going with a 9. Just because I agree with you. Who besides Denver is going to really, really bother them? I don't think it's many teams that can. No. They destroyed the East. They had a very good record against the West. It was just a couple teams. I think Denver was the only team where they never beat.
Who's going to be better in the East? Who's going to be better
Nobody.
next year in the East? I don't see anyone being better.
I
don't see
think-
the Knicks. There aren't any players to go
I was
get.
going to say the Knicks. Yeah, the Knicks do have
Knicks
a
maybe could,
okay shot.
if they stay healthy. The
If they
Knicks,
stay, yes.
but it will be basically the same team. I don't. Who else are they going to go get?
People want to hype Milwaukee. I don't think Milwaukee will do that well. Just because I don't think Doc Rivers is that great of a coach in Milwaukee. Orlando, they had a decent run. I still think they're a little too young. Cleveland, I don't think so. Personally, I don't think so.
No.
If the Pacers have
Philadelphia?
a defense, they may have a shot of just being very surprising. They were the 6th seed this year, and I think that shocked a lot of people just by their scoring.
Philadelphia,
efficiency.
they need a third piece. They don't have it. They're not going to get it.
They're very
unless
disappointing.
LeBron James decides to leave the Lakers and go play for them.
If Jimmy Butler's healthy and they're the 8th seed again and Celtics are the 1 seed, do the Celtics get beat in the first round?
No,
No.
not now. I think Brown and Tatum with the burden lifted from them, they're going to play free and easy, and I think that they're going to be very hard to beat.
Let's just take a let's compare them to the West now. So Denver, we already know. Denver is a team where for some reason the Celtics just could not get over the hump this past season. OKC got better defensively, but they're still an extremely young team. Experience-wise, and I think coaching-wise, I understand that OKC head coach got Coach of the Year this year.
The Timberwolves.
Timberwolves defensively, I think that would have been a massive challenge for them. And also, Ant Edwards, he was on fire against Denver.
Edwards made a lot of mental mistakes in the final series. He's a very young player, so he's going to have another year of experience. He's going to learn from that experience in the finals, and I think the Timberwolves could be a challenge, and hopefully they would knock the Nuggets off in the playoffs again on the West side.
I'm saying the Clippers no, because I don't think the Clippers will go very far, and they may lose Paul George in the process. So they'll get worse talent-wise. Dallas, Kyrie Irving can't play well against the Celtics, so it's basically like Luka or bust, which it kind of was this past series. Golden State is going to be very good.
I don't see Dallas. How are they going to improve their team? What can they do to make it better? I don't see them
Tell Luka to
up.
get in shape and play better defense and not be a traffic cone.
Well, maybe that's part of it, but
That
I don't
could be
see
a
them. But picking up another player, I don't see them being able to do that. They're going to be basically the same team. I don't see many teams having that different of a team chemistry or structure than they had this past season going into next year. Maybe one of the wild cards is maybe LeBron moves, but I don't think so. Now that Redick has been hired, he's a buddy of LeBron, so
And
I think that had something to do with them hiring him.
I think Brad Stevens, he's done an incredible job since he became the executive. He was okay as a head coach. He was perfectly fine as a head coach.
Yeah, he got him to never got to the finals under him.
That was Ime Udoka who got to the finals. But I will say, Brad Stevens, his moves as an executive, he traded Kemba, who wasn't that great with the Celtics. He traded for Al Horford, kept Jaylen Brown in 2021, acquired Derek White and traded Langford, traded Marcus Smart for Kristaps Porzingis and 2 first-round picks, re-signed Jaylen Brown to that Supermax, traded Malcolm Brogdon, who I liked a lot, was a 41% three-point shooter, and also Robert Williams for Drew Holiday, which, by the way, those moves of getting rid of Smart, Brogdon, and Williams, those three trade pieces that they moved all got hurt this season. I think Robert Williams played 3 games, too, before he got injured. So you got him for Holiday, who played a bunch, and also Porzingis, who he had a couple injuries here and there, but he was perfect. He was basically perfectly fine through most of the season.
Yeah, the Drew Holiday trade was a
brilliant
brilliant trade. I didn't think so when they first did it.
Right.
When I thought, hey, you wound up giving up Marcus Smart and got Drew Holiday. Drew Holiday's an older player.
Marcus Smart won Defensive Player of the Year, I think, the year before.
Yeah. So, but Drew Holiday, second team All Defensive Player, very smart player out on the court, fit beautifully into the Celtics team concept. It was brilliant.
And not only that, you signed him to an extension. You also signed Kristaps Porzingis to an extension. So you have those guys for a couple of years.
Yeah, and you're going to have Jason Tatum for a long time.
You're going to probably give him a $300+ million deal as well. So I think if you can maintain, I'm not saying the same exact bench, just a solid bench
All they have to do is go out and get a backup center who's so serviceable. It doesn't even have to be a star.
Well, he wouldn't even need to be the backup because Horford's the backup.
But they usually have two deep.
Right.
They did that with Cornette, right? And even played Tillman. They actually played 4 centers this year after Porzingis got hurt. And Al Horford, he's another year older. He's going to play another year. I think it's great. But give him a little more rest over there on the bench. Bring in another center, which they should be able to find.
I would agree with that. So the window is still open at least for one more year. And like I said, I would give him a 9 out of 10 on the confidence scale just because everybody is being brought back.
I think they could be dynasty, man. They could go 3.
Kendrick Perkins agrees with you. Kendrick Perkins says that he said on NBA Today, he said that, quote, I could see them winning 3 out of the next 4 years.
Yeah. Health is going to play a factor here. We have Porzingis, who has a history of injuries. Brown and Tatum have been very lucky. They really have not had any. I don't know that they've had any injuries really in their careers. Holiday is a little bit of an older player. Derek Wright, I don't see that he's ever been really hurt. So they've been really lucky health-wise. They were really lucky this year health-wise.
Yeah.
I like the team a lot. As you said, when the Bulls finally won one, they won 3 in a row.
You're saying that this is the new Michael Jordan.
I'm not saying it's Michael. There's a Michael Jordan on the Celtics, but I do think the team concept and the Celtics recognizing that we can't put too much pressure on Jason Tatum really worked well. Worked extremely well. They got a great concept there, a great team chemistry. Hold that together. Stay healthy. It's going to be another win in the championship, I think, particularly if Denver doesn't get there, and maybe a 3-peat. You heard it from me.
Well, I'll say this. It's very good when you already win to think, we're going to spend the money to go again. Because why would you want to change a championship team? Look at the Denver Nuggets. They lost a lot of their key bench players. They lost some of their starters, too. You just won a championship. You gentlemen swept in the NBA Finals. You dominated the West last year. And you want to change it? At least the Celtics are like, we're going to re-sign people. We're going to spend the money. We'll take the second 8. We'll take a massive luxury tax if we need to. We just want to win again. It's been 16 years, and now they've finally won again. And they were, I think, 14 games ahead of the next team in the East, which is absolutely ridiculous. Joe Mazzulla nearly has won 3/4 of his games as a coach of the Celtics. In the playoffs, he has a 69% winning percentage.
He's liking it, man.
I mean, there's nothing. They're spending the money to keep the key players that they need to win a championship. They didn't give up on Jaylen Brown. They didn't, buy into the idea of you need to trade one of these pieces and get another piece, and then you could win. They stuck with it. They got Joe Mazzulla. They believed in the philosophy that Mazzulla brought, the 3 ball. Live and die by the 3. Last year, they died by it a lot. Now, they live by it. And you know what? It paid its dividends.
I think they live by it now, but they also have the opportunity to go inside with Porzingis.
Yeah. No, that is true.
And Tatum he's good at driving. He was much better this year than last year for driving the ball. He didn't turn the ball over.
The ball security was massive.
Ball security was much better.
This season, the playoffs, we all remember during the time where he played with the Warriors, time against the Warriors where they lost in 6, he had triple-digit turnovers. He had cut that in half this playoff run. Legitimately, he had 50 turnovers during this playoff run. So that's the key right there. That's the key. All right, let's go into our final topic of today's show. So, Tom Pelissero went on the Rich Eisen show to talk about the fact that the NFL owners have reportedly discussed radical changes to quarterback contracts. So take a listen.
There certainly has been discussion within the league, Rich, among certain owners about even the idea of a quarterback cap, that at some point you want quarterback numbers to not go over a certain percentage of your salary cap. To my knowledge, that really hasn't gained traction, in part because so many teams have paid their quarterbacks.
So I want to know, do you think the NFL should put a cap on quarterback contracts?
Salaries are now approaching $60 million a year. Dak Prescott's going to want $60 million. I don't think he'll get it. I don't think he's actually expecting it. I think he'd be happy with 55. But $55 million even, right? With lots of money guaranteed. You see Trevor Lawrence has played inconsistently over his whole career. $55 million a year. It's crazy. I don't know. I think it seems like the ownerships are trying to outdo one another. And here you bring it up on the screen here. Trevor Lawrence, 5 years, $275 million. Joe Burrow, 5 years, $275 million. How did Trevor Lawrence get the same contract as Joe Burrow? I'm shocked by
One made
that.
a Super Bowl.
Yeah.
And was literally maybe 2 seconds away. If he had 2 seconds, Jamar Chase broke free on the right side. Aaron Donald pressured him. I think got the sack on the final play of the Super Bowl.
Jared Goff, 4 years, $212 million. Justin Herbert, 5 years, $262 million. Lamar Jackson, 5 years, $260 million. He's probably angry that he doesn't get more money now. Jalen Hurts, 5 years, $255 million. It's crazy. And we still have Jordan Love out there. We still have Tua out there. We still have Dak Prescott out there who are going to probably get big contracts.
C.J. Stroud too.
C.J. Stroud, right? He's watching this and thinking, "Wow, this is great. This is the benchmark here." You didn't even put up Watson, right? Yeah. Who has $230 million guaranteed.
He's averaging $46 million
guaranteed. He's got $230 million guaranteed, no matter how he plays. It's crazy. I don't get it. I mean, the TV money's great. And the money's there to pay, I guess. But I think you hurt your team a little bit when you use so much of your salary cap to pay one player. And the quarterback, as I've always said, handles the ball on every play. So he's the most important player. His decision-making is so important. His ball security, his leadership skills. It's definitely the most important player on the team. But to use up, a big chunk of your salary cap, paying a quarterback as much as $60 million a year, I don't know. I think that perhaps there's something needs to be done. Maybe some sort of NBA model with a max and a super max, or maybe a salary that can't go over a certain percentage of the salary cap is something they ought to look at. Not just for the quarterback, for any one player. Any player on the team can't earn more than X percent of the salary cap. So I don't know. We'll see what they do.
Do you think that they should, though? Because Tom Pelissero said it hasn't really picked up any traction, but they've had low-level conversations about the idea because of the fact that Trevor Lawrence got $55 million.
I think the Players Association would go nuts. The CBA, it would be a big issue with the CBA. I don't see it happening in the near term.
But do you think that if you were, I guess, the owner, the commissioner, would you implement that?
I guess I'd like to, and I think the owners would love to have it, right? Because it's costing them tons of money.
More money in their pocket,
and you're just going to see, I think it puts, and the players love it because it puts more pressure on increasing the salary cap, right? This is a item that can really put a lot of pressure on the salary cap growing because you're throwing so much money at your quarterback. It doesn't leave much for all the other good players, and there's many other good players that deserve to earn lots of money. And when the standard for a quarterback is as much as $60 million, it just lifts everybody else's boat.
Well, yeah. Well, I think what's shocking about this is, and Tom Pelissero talks about Trevor Lawrence's $55 million per year contract. Well, Sports Illustrated came out and said that Brock Purdy's contract could be $65 million a year. $65 million. And Dak Prescott's asking for 60. C.J. Stroud is probably going to be a top 10 quarterback very early on next season. Brock Purdy's probably going to be a top 10 quarterback very early on. Tua, with the amount of talent he has, the amount of talent he has around him, as well as he's not that horrible of a quarterback, he's probably going to ask for $60 million or somewhere around it. Do some of these quarterbacks deserve it? I think if you go down to the bare bones of it all, Dak Prescott, do you like regular season success and then sucking in the playoffs? Dak Prescott's your guy. Do you like Tua Tagovailoa, who could only play in warm weather? Check the records, check the statistics. He doesn't do well in cold weather, and especially outside in cold weather. Regardless, do you want that, where it's all circumstantial? Do you want C.J. Stroud, who's still a very young quarterback? I think he's 2 years out eligible for an extension. Do you think that he's your guy to pay $60 million? Brock Purdy. If George Kittle, and they're all advancing in age, if Brandon Ayuk is gone because he's frustrated with the contract situation, If George Kittle retires and you're stuck with Debo, and I'm sure C-Mac, he just got a 2-year extension, I believe. If let's say he gets banged up for a season, I hope that isn't really the case with San Francisco, just because I think could conditioning be a little bit better? Could it be the San Francisco environment compared to Carolina's that it could be the difference? Regardless, if something bad happens to Brock Purdy's supporting cast, and you give him a $65 million a year contract, and we start seeing the truth of it all, that no, he actually was the most helped quarterback, and he is a good quarterback, but he's not 2023 level of greatness, where people were saying he should have been the MVP. People are saying now, Sports Illustrated is saying he's worth $65 million a year, or could be. Could we see it in that situation? And where you're really biting yourself. The Browns, that contract is still, if Deshaun Watson does not get near his level of Texans play, where he was a close to an MVP candidate, making the playoffs, could that be the worst contract in NFL? Worst contract in sports history?
Maybe. I mean, they owe him $230 million no matter what he does.
Right. So I think
so far he hasn't played up to it. I don't think he's played up to the contract.
No,
last year he wound up getting hurt. He was inconsistent.
I think it's a sub 60% completion percentage.
Yeah.
So let's just say they put a salary. Let's say they put a hard cap on what you can make per year. You are right. I think that does, just because of the fact that the salary cap will go up.
A percentage of the salary cap.
Right. So, for instance, at the time of signing, currently Joe Burrow leads the league in that. So, at the percent of sign, the average percentage of the cap was 24.47. That's how much his contract was worth. Now, actually, Trevor Lawrence, it's crazy to think that it's $55 million a year, the same as Joe Burrow. But it's 21.5% of the league cap. That's how much the cap has grown in a matter of what? Oh, literally a year.
The cap is going to continue to grow, for
Correct,
sure.
because the NFL
the TV money
growing.
is going to be there, and the players split 50-50, I think, right? With the
I'm not sure what the exact percentage
with the NFL. I think it's like 50-50. And so the money is going to be there. The salary cap is going to grow. I would say set it at 20% of the cap, the max for any one player.
So if it's 20%, that means let's actually bring up the contracts. We don't have every contract here, but based on if it's 20% of the league cap, Burrow cannot have the amount of money. Burrow, Allen, Herbert, Lamar, Mahomes, Hurts, Kyler Murray, Deshaun Watson, Dak Prescott, Trevor Lawrence, and Jared Goff could not have the contracts they currently have. They're above 20%, with Jared Goff being 20.75% of the cap at signing. Mm-hmm. Matthew Stafford would have the biggest contract at $40 million a year. Mm-hmm. $40 million. You're saying quarterbacks can only make $40 million a year. Actually, technically, that would go up because of the.
It's going to go up. The salary cap is going to continue to grow. So I would say these contracts are all grandfathered. You're not going to change them. Actually, they're already signed. So you look forward to a salary cap that grows, and a percentage, 20% will result in the opportunity to continue to give more money to these players, but not at the alarming growth rate that it's been going up now. These contracts have gone up like a hockey stick.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I think because if we're looking at it, Trevor Lawrence and the salary cap, I think, exploded this season. Trevor Lawrence's 55 per year is only 21.53% of the cap. So what, you'd be, I can't do the exact percentage calculation in my head, but what, that's like 53. If you signed a $53 or $52 million contract, that would be about 20% of the cap, give or take. I'm sure. I can't do the calculation immediately in my head, but 53, 52. Would you pay Tua Tagovailoa that? Is he worth $52 million? I'd put him around the $47 million personally.
I wouldn't. In fact,
I think C.J. Stroud is worth $52.
I would let him play his contract this year, and and put him on the franchise tag next year. Watch and see how he plays this year. I think it's still a question mark. I would not give him a giant contract. I'd let him play out his contract. If there's a lot of interest in him, put the franchise tag on him for a year, and then a negotiated deal with him.
Yeah, but you know what's going to happen. We're going to see a situation where it could be a holdout, could be something. We see it all the time.
He can hold out if he wants, but the franchise tag sticks. That's not going to stop the Dolphins from putting the tag on him. I don't think.
That's true. I mean,
And why would he do
It's
that?
not-
He's
it's
going
not-
to
it's
wind
not a
up
good
giving
image.
up a lot of money. He would
It's not a
wind
good
up with
image.
being paid a huge salary on the franchise tag. It'd just be only for 1 year.
Yeah, I think the franchise tag is like $45 million this season,
Yeah.
something like that for a quarter. It
Not
might
bad.
be even more than that.
But would you give him a big contract right now?
I would give him. I'm not giving him.
$55 million bucks.
I'm
Would
not
you give
giving him
him
55. I would give him 50 at the very most. And if we look at Spot Track
that?
right
How
now,
many years?
I would give him 5.
5 years, and how much guaranteed?
Let's see. If I'm making 55, I'll give him 160 million fully guaranteed. Or
Wow.
I guess guaranteed.
He'd probably take that contract.
I don't know. Right now, currently, Spot Trek has his annual average salary at $52.6 million. With I don't think no, they don't give guarantees. So that's what his contract would be if you go based on Spot Track, $52.6 million, which is a decent amount of money. I would give him 50 at the most. And it really depends on the season. If he plays great, yeah, sure, I'll agree with this number. No doubt about it. But I think it's a bit glaring when you get into if we're talking about level of difficulty, medium to hard, because they're from Miami, and his stats plummet. His numbers plummet. Production plummets. How can you give this guy $55 million? It's the same thing with Trevor Lawrence. Trevor Lawrence and Daniel Jones have won the same amount of playoff games. One's making $15 million more than the other one. And I don't have the numbers here, but we showed them, I think, on last show, the show before. Their numbers are identical. Their numbers, I think Trevor Lawrence has 200 more total yards. And Daniel Jones has been hurt a lot. Trevor Lawrence did get hurt last year, but he played through
The
it.
Trevor Lawrence deal to me is hard to believe. I really think
They're paying for potential.
Why did they go get Daniel Jones to be his backup? I don't understand.
They got Mac Jones.
I'm sorry, Mac Jones. Mac Jones to be his backup. Why'd they bother doing that? I don't
They also
understand.
denied
They
his
thought they were going to give him
fifth-year option,
$55 million a year.
Well, Mac's not going to. I think why they brought
He's
in
obviously
Mac,
not going to play
I think why they brought in Mac
unless
was because
Lawrence
that-
gets hurt, which is
That's what I
now
was gonna say.
he's had a concussion. He had a ankle injury and a shoulder injury. So I don't know. Maybe he's going to be injury prone. I don't know. We'll see.
Some
I
of
think
these
that's a
quarterbacks
huge
are injury
contract
prone,
to
too.
give that guy.
Well, his contract buddies also. I think if he has one more injury, it doesn't matter if it's in a game or during training camp, which Burrow for the past couple of years he's been getting hurt in training camp. I think one more decent injury, we can now label Burrow as injury prone.
Yeah.
And we'll bring it up the number one more time. They're contract buddies. Same exact contract when it comes to just total salary in years.
Wow. It's craziness. It's unbelievable.
I think you're right, though. If you implement a cap for quarterbacks and it goes up, I think that does raise salaries for everybody else because the owners have all this money. It's either going to go into new stadiums or new facilities or it's going to go into the players, which then, hell, if it doesn't go into the facility, running backs still complain about, by the way, Ramondre Stevenson signed a 4-year, $36 million contract extension.
Good for him.
So that kind of means the running back market, $9 million a year? And we're here talking about Saquon complaining about 12 and 13 million, which I think he got 12 point something. Austin Eckler complaining about the running back
market. Plug and play.
Too.
They just pull the next guy in there, because those guys take a beating.
Yeah.
And their longevity is short.
Because your prime is the first 4 years of your career. Yeah. Quarterbacks, it could take 10 years for you to hit your prime. Late 20s into mid 30s.
Yeah.
So it's difficult to say, but I think it depends.
I just think it's crazy that you get a contract like that, $275 million, and it's like 5 years.
Yeah.
And your longevity in the NFL and as a quarterback could be 15 to 20 years.
Right.
You could get that contract 3 times.
Well, Kirk Cousins got a bunch of those types of things where
he's one of the richest
he's going
players
to make
ever.
$430 million by the time his now contract
it's
is up.
crazy just from his salary playing in the NFL.
Yeah.
And these guys get the endorsements.
Yeah.
They have lots of other income that they can make. It's amazing. If you're a great athlete, you can play quarterback in the NFL and be good at it, man. You're just set.
Well,
no problem.
I think the Bills did it with Josh Allen. They signed him to a massive extension, multi-year, more than the average of now $5 million. I think they signed to a 7 or 8 year contract. Mahomes got 10 years.
His deal looks like a steal.
He's averaging $45 million.
Yeah. He gets $500 million over 10 years.
His contract average salary currently is tied for 9th with Kirk Cousins. And we're talking about a guy who's probably most likely going to three-peat. Is now tied for the 9th highest average salary.
Yeah, he messed up. He shouldn't have taken that deal.
I mean, at the time, you're signing a guy 10 years. You're banking your future.
I mean,
on this
look
one
at that.
guy.
If somebody offered me 10 years and $500 million, I'd take it in a heartbeat.
I think everybody would.
Yeah, well,
He did, and he was smart to do it. It's gonna get. There's gonna be more years, more money added. They may just void it and say we'll give you a new contract. There might be a bunch of things going on, but the fact that Mahomes is now tied for the 9th highest paid contract annually shows just how crazy that these contracts are going to turn out to be. And for all we know, right? Because I brought this up on last time we talked about contracts and we talked about Trevor Lawrence's contract. 6 years ago, Jimmy Garoppolo was the highest paid quarterback in the league annually at a little bit over $25 million per year. So let's say 6 years from now. So it's been a $30 million jump in 6 years. Let's continue that trend. I don't know who it'll be. It's probably going to be a rookie in 2026 or 7. That quarterback, if we continue this trend, will be making $85 million a year.
Well, I saw an article in the Wall Street Journal about sports player contracts, and they say that Luka Doncic in his career could wind up making $1 billion. It's possible. He could wind up with $1 billion, huh?
I mean, think about it. Now
the money's there because sports is so big now. It's huge.
Well, the NBA's finally hitting $300 million contracts. Yeah. The NFL, we're talking, Mahomes signed obviously the biggest deal at $450 million over 10 years. But we're seeing some massive contracts. And if the trend continues, we see Trevor Lawrence now is the current highest paid quarterback 6 years after Jimmy G was. In 6 years from now, could Arch Manning be the first $85 million a year quarterback?
I don't know. We'll see how he plays. If he plays like Peyton Manning did, then probably.
I mean, according to C.J. Stroud, Eli Manning is over Aaron Rodgers, so maybe it's Eli Manning he wants to play.
Well, only because he got 2 Super Bowls and Aaron.
So did Peyton Manning.
I know.
I'd still choose Aaron Rodgers over Eli Manning. I get it. The rings are a thing, but Eli's a mid quarterback.
Yeah, I agree.
500 record. All right, so that wraps up today's show. We thank you for the constant support as always. My name's Nathan Harvey. That's been Stephen Harvey. You can catch me on Tuesday, 6:30 p.m. Eastern, right here on YouTube.